The Chinese capital of Beijing has entered wartime emergency mode amid a fresh cluster of coronavirus cases. More than 100 people have been diagnosed since last Thursday.
Chinese authorities have restored strict lockdown controls and ramped up testing as they try to track the spread. Taiwan's health minister says that China's outbreak is unlikely to spread across the border, but that it could affect plans to reopen the borders.
Health Minister Chen Shih-chung puts his John Hancock on caricatures, face masks and t-shirts all featuring him. He's at the Taiwan Textile Research Institute to thank Taiwan's national team against the pandemic. He was received like a superstar.
大家都做得非常好，所以一直没有什么问题哈，所以就一直到这个疫情到比较轻松的时候才有机会来。
The epidemic is easing in Taiwan, but across the strait, Beijing is going through a second wave of infections, with over 100 confirmed cases in 5 days. The WHO underscored the severity of the reemergence.
Last week, China reported a new cluster of cases in Beijing, after more than 50 days without a case in that city. More than 100 cases have now been confirmed. The origin and extent of the outbreak are being investigated.
对于台湾的影响相对的小，因为我们对于边境的政策是采用台湾的。
The impact of this outbreak on Taiwan has been relatively small. Our borders are regulated based on Taiwan policy. There is not a leak to be found. There is no effect right now, but it could have an impact on how we reopen our borders in the future.
If Taiwan is to reopen its borders, it must reassess its flight routes from epidemic areas. Since June 11th, Beijing has seen an explosion in local COVID infections. The city's government announced on Monday that all districts could be entering a war-style lockdown. Temperature checks are back at building entrances, with staff on patrol 24/7. Indoor sports and entertainment venues have all closed down.
新发地农产品批发市场周边
11 neighborhoods near the Xingfadi market and 10 neighborhoods near the Yuquandong market have been put under closed-off management, with tests for 90,000 residents in process.
A systematic citywide investigation was conducted to determine how many people have been to Xingfadi market since late May.
全市各社区村排查5月30日以来
All communities in the city were investigated to find out who had been to Xingfadi market since May 30th. There are almost 200,000 people who did.
Local authorities have organized testing for each urban community, and residents are being told to monitor their health at home. Up until this point, life in Beijing had been returning to normal. Now, it's back to strict controls.
我们社区呢，前天刚刚把
2 days ago, we opened up the main gates of our community, which had previously been shut. It was just like before the pandemic, but now things have changed again. Chaoyang is a disaster zone once again.
小道消息就是说，新发地那一带挺严重的。
The word on the street is that the outbreak in Xingfadi market is quite serious. Thousands of people are getting tested. It's not clear exactly how many people were infected. Now we're all waiting it out at home. People with elders at home don't dare to go out.
The re-eruption of cases in Beijing was traced back to Xingfadi market. In an earlier investigation, the coronavirus was found on a chopping board used by a salmon seller in the market. Reports had questioned whether the salmon was to blame for the infections. The WHO says it's possible.
There have been much research done on the potential for coronaviruses and other viruses to survive on many surfaces, including packaging. In this particular case, I think obviously it is one of the hypotheses, and this hypothesis continues and needs to be further tested.
居民们请注意，居民们请注意，近期1个月有去过北京的吗？请到居委会报到。
The second wave of infections is feared to have already spread outside Beijing, with new cases reported in the provinces of Liaoning, Hebei and Sichuan, and in the cities of Dalian, Shenyang and Harbin. At least 10 administrative divisions in China have asked residents to report themselves to authorities if they recently visited Beijing. Many fear that if the situation isn't handled properly, Beijing could become the new Wuhan.